What's going on, everybody? This is the Reformation Keegan, and I wanted to address a number of things today. So, one of them is why I haven't been doing my mental health vlogs over the last couple of months. And that is because I recently discovered that I'm on the autism spectrum. So, I was diagnosed with high functioning autism along the lines of Asperger's, which is now under the banner of autism spectrum disorder. And I've been thinking about it for a couple of weeks because I was diagnosed about 2 weeks ago. And I've been trying to wrap my mind around it. So, for the last number of years of my life, actually, probably since childhood, I had various quirks and I had various times that I would have a meltdown, and it was a meltdown that I wasn't able to control. So a lot of individuals, whether it be authority figures outside of school or in school, would label me certain things. They would label me as definer. They would say that I have a behavioral disorder or ADHD or anything along those lines. And I knew deep down in my mind I didn't have ADHD, and I knew that I was behaved. I'll give you an example. When I was very young, I was very independent, and I never went to initiate any conflict with anybody. I always liked being by myself. I always enjoyed being by myself. And other more adult things when I was a kid intrigued me. So, for instance, I was much more interested in reading and writing than I was playing with somebody after school or playing tag or engaging in those kind of activities. The same thing went for athletics, where I was a goalie in soccer and I played hockey and did very well, and I played basketball. But I was much better in an independent environment. And that was looked at differently. So, for instance, I was told that I was antisocial, or I was looked at as arrogant because I didn't really want to be around anybody else. So, having the autism diagnosis answered a lot of these questions. I spoke with a very, very well regarded psychiatrist, and we had about a 2 hour conversation, and we looked up my past medical records, and the decision was made that I had most of the traits of autism. So this is definitely a new change for me. I had known that there were signs, and I had individuals around me tell me that there were signs. Give you another example. I could get a lifetime of amount of work done in school in a couple of weeks, and then I would be burnt out for months or even years. And I would get hyper focused. So, for instance, again, I would read comic books, and I still read comic books to this day. I could read 20 to 30 comics in a row like they're nothing. And I could keep my attention, and I could retain the information, and I could find really, really unique aspects of the comic that another individual may not find. I look at, like, for example, I really like looking at word choice that the author uses. I like looking at line work in the art, and I really like inspecting that and how it rhetorically impacts the main narrative. So I can really dig deeper with stuff like that. And one of the things that was described to me as I don't even know if you can call it a symptom, but as a trait, is someone's intelligence is heightened, which is ironic because when I was in high school, at an agency school I went to for children with behavioral issues, I was told that my IQ was low and that I was at the quote unquote mentally retarded level, which is, again, humorous to me because I never struggled academically. I always did extremely well because I could get hyper focused for English or for history and do very well. But even too in my social interactions, I always struggled as well as I did academically. I struggled just as much with my social interactions. So, like I mentioned previously, I was described as antisocial, and I wasn't the fact that I was antisocial. I found ways to entertain myself, and I had almost a phobia, for lack of a better term, with having to talk with people, and I still have that phobia to this day. And it's very difficult because you feel like you have to rehearse a conversation in your mind, even though when I present something for school, I don't need to rehearse it. I can think of it off the top of my head. But if you have me engage in a conversation with somebody that I don't necessarily know, or if I do know and I know that they're going to judge me on something, then you're not going to get the conversation out of me that you desire. And that's been difficult for me. Being in group settings has been very difficult for me, and being forced into that actually makes it a lot harder. And one of the things that I was told with autistic people is if you force them into an environment where they know that they're going to crash, then they're going to pretty much hit the self-destruct button on themselves, and then they're going to lash out, or they're going to have an autistic meltdown. And one of those things comes also from sensory overload, which I do get. Certain smells, even certain textures, certain numbers, even like if I look at a certain number, it can bother me. So odd numbers, for instance, usually drive me insane. Certain tones of people's voices will also drive me insane. But yeah, like and these are things that I just thought were kind of just quirks and normal, but I didn't know that they were a part of the autism spectrum. And it explains why I can do a task for a short amount of time and then I burn out. And a lot of people would call me complacent and call me lazy. But I knew I wasn't. I was burnt out. How would I have a master's degree in English literature if I was lazy? That's a question that I'm just going to leave out in the open. But the one thing that got misunderstood was that I would crash and burn. And what I needed was time away from people. Give you another example. When I'm wrestling, after I'm done one show, I need sometimes a few weeks to not be around anybody. I'm that burnt out. And that was something that was supposed to be taken seriously. But then when I discussed it with my psychiatrist, he described it again as a very serious situation that a lot of people I just think misunderstood, and it's not their fault. It's a very difficult thing to understand, but that misunderstanding actually impacted me even worse. And what happened is I had a double crash, and I'm still going through it right now. In June, I really crashed, and I'm still recovering from that crash right now, and it's actually taking a lot out of me to do this video. So in a way, I'm still trying to overcome that crash that I had. And one of the remedies of that is, I hate saying it this way, but social distancing and not being around as many people and actually isolating. And that helps me out because then I feel like I can recharge, and then when I have to go around people for those couple of times, I can get through it. I don't necessarily enjoy it. It's very difficult on me, but I can get through it if I absolutely have to. I just figured out that I can't do it all the time. And that's a barrier that I have to work around. And one of the things that has been a struggle with my own mental health is receiving accommodations for that. And even accommodations through social interactions have been very difficult. So that's something right now that I'm currently working on. And one of the things too that was brought up in my meeting with my psychiatrist was that mental health and autism go together. They're not necessarily two separate entities. They're on the same tree and even on the same branch, but just divided out. And that's why I think for me, suicidal thoughts, depressive states, manic states, and agitation become very prominent in my daily life, especially when I'm under an excessive amount of stress. And now I think we have some answers. The only challenge I think is going to be to have other people try to understand those challenges And there are some people that do understand, but I mean in positions of employment and work, positions within education, and also in positions where I have to be in public constantly. We're trying to get some accommodations for that. And one thing I learned is there's nothing wrong with receiving those accommodations. I think a lot of people have suffered for way too long with autism and various forms of mental illness. And the fact that they can overlap has given me a lot of answers. And yeah, there is a little bit of closure, but now I'm a little bit concerned to see what the reception is going to be in other places that I venture into, whether it's wrestling or education. So we're going to have to wait and see for that, because the track record for both places for me has not been strong with my mental health. So I'm hoping that we can change that going forward. But, you know, like the thoughts of suicide that I've had, or the meltdowns that I have had, which are very destructive, they now kind of have, I hate saying this way, but now they kind of have a purpose to other people that are around me. Like they kind of understand more. And I've had conversations with a couple people that have been very supportive, and that's really helped me, because one of the things in this issue that I've had has been support. I felt like there hasn't been that support, but then when I talk to certain people, I realize that support is there. So it definitely means a lot. And for the people that have supported me, you know who you are. And some days, you know, dealing with me are not easy, and I totally understand that. And I try to rectify every issue that I've made for everybody. And, you know, one of the things too is the fight or flight response. So if I have, you know, talked to you in that fight or flight response and I have expressed frustration, I apologize. But now we're definitely getting somewhere. We're going down a good road, I think, and we're going to get some answers, and hopefully I can not succumb to more issues. So for all of those fellow reformers out there that have supported me through wrestling, thank you. For everybody who has supported me throughout my education, which may or may not be done yet, to be determined, thank you. And for those who have supported me just in my daily life outside of wrestling and education, I want to say thank you. Because some of you have really gone out of your way to help me. And I will never forget that. And I will always hold it near and dear to me. And hopefully, with this autism diagnosis and with my own mental health, we can keep changing things for people, not just like me, but for people that have any sort of mental health problem or any sort of autism. Hopefully we can make this world a better place for them, because a lot of things in the workplace and in the education system are not very accommodating to people with these illnesses. So hopefully I can be a pillar for that, and if I can't, I will die trying, and I'm not going to quit on that, because if we can't create change, then what are we doing in this world? So again, thank you for giving this a listen. Hopefully it was a little bit informative, and if you know me, hopefully it gives a little bit of an explanation on what's been going on the last while. There's still a lot of other things that I haven't gotten into yet, so I might do another video when the time's right. Let me know if that would be of interest. And most of all, thank you all for being there, and I will see you relatively soon.